I'm running around Neon, and I can see him chasing me like
Coming like the Terminator?
all the other security guards are just do. They don't
Yeah.
care whatsoever. And he's running after me. I find some dark alleyway where there's no other NPCs. He tries to shake me down, and I murder him. And of course, Sarah leaves me.
Welcome to episode 23 of Starfield with Normal People. My name is Michael, and as always, I am here with Duane.
What is up, everybody?
Duane, how's it going?
It is going good, Michael. Thanks for asking. You know, I am basking in this beautiful new sunrise.
Yeah.
We are now getting in the new patch. I downloaded the patch today, and I just launched the game, and I'm noticing some improvements right away.
We should definitely talk about it. I'm on Xbox, and I don't get the beta update, but I am just online looking at people's videos and very excited for when it finally comes to us. I'm just loving what I'm seeing because there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of little tweaks, and not all of these were really mentioned in the beta law, the notes.
Yeah, that's typical Bethesda. I mean, they leave little surprises for the community. So that's why it's rewarding to be a Starfield player, because there's always something more to find, to discover in every patch.
Yeah.
They're playful, right? Like there's this element of surprise and playfulness that Bethesda has that we've both come to love and appreciate. Did they explicitly, I think they did mention the sunrises, right?
Unless I missed it, what I saw was that they were making general lighting improvements and stuff like that.
Yes.
I didn't see specifically them naming this. Now, by contrast, they did specifically say that ringed planets, when the game launched, if you were in space, there would be a shadow cast on the ring itself, the way it happens in real life.
Yeah.
But if you were, boots on the ground, if you were down on a moon or a planet and you see this ringed planet in the sky, there would be no shadow. So a little bit immersion breaking, but it never was really a problem.
I don't think anybody is calculating the position of the sun in the sky as everything's moving around to make sure that the shadows fall across the rings.
Yeah.
Now that it's in the game, we're going to be like, oh, that is cool.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'll suspend my disbelief. It doesn't matter to me. The fact that they're adding it now, hey, I do like it. Like, it looks cool.
Yeah.
And so they said that would happen. But now what we're talking about is this sunrise. So you see the sky change, starts to get brighter, you get the oranges, whatever. And then at some point, all of a sudden, boom, you would get that light glare, like of the star in that system. And now you're actually seeing like the circular part of the star, like you're actually seeing the star come up. It's very cool. It's beautiful. And like, we've talked about the types of players that like to be out exploring. Usually I land on a planet and then I sit in a chair and wait until usually about like 7 or 8 so that I get lots of daylight for exploring. I'll probably be doing like 5 or 6 now.
Right.
So I can get those sunrises.
There you go. Are you familiar with the green flash phenomenon?
No.
When the sun is setting on the ocean,
Right.
on the West Coast, you're down at the beach and you see the sunset right as it dips below the horizon. There is a phenomenon like a literal green flash. Have you ever experienced that? Have you heard of that?
So, no.
Yeah.
So when you said the green flash, I think I had heard of it, but I don't think I knew what it was.
Yeah, but what you were describing earlier reminded me of that, kind of like that moment when, but in the opposite regard, where the sun rises and it kind of blinds you when that first ball of light kind of hits your eyeball. So yeah, it's cool stuff.
So we don't have this confirmed, right? Because the beta's only been out a few days at this point, as of this recording. So people are still exploring it, and that's why we're getting little trickles of videos, right? It took a few days for someone to say, whoa, sunsets are better. Will eclipses be cooler?
They could be.
Don't get me wrong. Discovering or seeing an eclipse in the game was already awesome because it's a very special thing. It's like it does not happen all the time. But now I'm wondering if they actually render like the disc, the ball of the star, I'm just wondering if that's going to improve. Because the way it is now, the light just sort of disappears. It's like very, very bright and then just disappears. But if they're actually rendering the star in the sky, I don't know. I can't wait. I can't wait to see if somebody catches one during the beta or once the update's actually out.
Now I'm going to be looking. I mean, we are getting in the weeds a little bit with the lighting effects. You actually had mentioned to me earlier about NPCs in general, just in town, walking around a populated area.
Yeah.
They should look better. When I just launched the game and walked around New Atlantis, everything looked good. Like, before, and I said this to you, I was like, oh, that dude's an NPC, like saying it almost like an NPC in real life when you see like a crazy person on the street, like there goes an NPC. There's a little less uncanny valley.
Right.
I feel like.
Yeah.
Just walking around in general, a little less side eye.
Yep.
I think they've been working hard at fixing this kind of stuff.
Our friend Berg sent me an article about, so it was like sort of like a psychologist who studies people's faces. And his whole thing was like, oh, here's why smiles look, sort of fake in Starfield. And I didn't really think the facial animations are perfect. Like there's always room for improvement, but I think the facial animations are very good. Mm-hmm. I did find it interesting. He pointed out that there's sort of like a muscle near the eyes that's supposed to contract with a genuine smile. And if you don't do that, when you get into the uncanny valley and like your people look almost real, then you miss that little detail. Sometimes it make it look like a person is psychotic, like they're smiling and it's false.
Right. Like that movie Smile, right? Where it's just like this really disturbing smile on their face. But a person smiling it's not 1,000 muscles because you don't have that many muscles in your face, but it's something obscene, like the amount of work that the muscles in your cheeks, your whole face are doing in order to create that smile that honestly the developers don't have that kind of processing power or time to waste on a realistic smile at this point.
That's kind of what I was...
They're getting closer, though.
That was the first part of the article. It was like, oh, that's very cool, but it's also nitpicky. Like, it doesn't bother me. The game doesn't contract those eye muscles. However, there was a second part of the article that was talking about how you shouldn't be showing the white of the eyes above the iris. And I think that was what was happening with a lot of NPCs. That's why they all look like they had crazy eyes, because you should really, like, honestly, our eyelids usually cover up most of the top iris and you're just uncovering the pupil.
Right.
I honestly think in the update, that's one of the things that they fixed.
Sure.
I'm not 100% sure because I don't have the video in front of me.
How did this make it past the initial animation stages? No one working at Bethesda was like, dude, their eyes look a little crazy.
I don't know.
No one said that in a meeting, or was it groupthink? Was it like the space shuttle disaster where no one wanted to say anything about the O-ring? And
I wonder if I would hope that it was just one of those things where like they had it just fine at some point, and then in the last 2 months some code was added that made everyone's eyes bug out, and they were like, okay, we'll work on this, but we got to ship the game.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, there's a million things that happen in development, and like this sunset thing could have been something they developed a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then they had to scale a bunch of stuff back in order for it to run on, minimum specs or whatever. And now they might be piecing out certain things that don't bring the game to its knees.
I firmly believe that like things like the shadows on the rings and the sun, I think a lot of this stuff was already almost ready. And like you said, like they had to scrap it just to get the game launched. And now they're putting it in, and I'm glad they are. Like, okay, we don't like when a game launches like and is fixed later. But man, the game was fine. So I appreciate that. Like, I appreciate when they don't just launch a game and say, well, we had other plans, but it's already launched.
You don't ever get to see them.
Yeah.
You will never lay eyes on the cool content that we had here.
Because they could just like, I would hate for this to happen, but they could launch the game and just say, we'll put these improvements in the DLC when the DLC comes out. They could totally do that, and I'm glad that they're not doing
it could
that.
make you pay for it later.
Yeah. No.
It's like Disney, Aladdin, get it on DVD before it gets locked away in the Disney vault.
Disney vault.
Like, go out and buy Aladdin right now.
I love how...
Because you won't be able to.
Dude, I loved having to explain. I worked at a video store, and most people like just didn't know about the Disney vault. And they'd be like, I want to buy Aladdin or Lion King.
Because it was on every stinking VHS, like an intro.
Right.
You know?
I don't know, but see, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that you just don't think about. Yeah. Yeah, I remember having to say, you can't get it because it's in the vault. What do you mean it's in the vault? Like, this is just what Disney does. You can't get it. And they're like, what? Yep.
You know, this is random, but the sign of a good VCR was how minimal the fast forwarding lines were on the screen when you fast forward and
wow, minimal
fast
lines.
reversed.
This is a good one.
If it was like super fuzzy and it like took so long and the machine was making a bunch of noises like a washing machine starting up or like an HP printer, then you knew you had a cheap VCR. But
it's so funny.
Just two little lines, one at the middle of the top and middle of the bottom, you had a really expensive VCR, let me tell you.
I remember when we upgraded, I was like, oh man, look at that fast forward with the minimal lines.
Look at this amazing. It's what was it, like a dual head VCR? That's what the difference was, I think. Yeah.
You know, we've talked to death about the sunrise, but I do want to say that other additions to the lighting, changes to the lighting, are also something that I'm very happy about. People have noticed some places that had very harsh lighting, and we're talking like you would go into this woman's shop and it's like dark except there's a light above her, and it's just like dark behind her and blinding light hitting her from above. And there's a lot of spots like that in Starfield, and those are getting tweaked.
Nice.
The lighting is much less harsh.
It's kind of the opposite of what you said to me. It was more flat. It was like 3-camera sitcom lighting where they just light everything because they're using multiple cameras, you know?
Yeah.
Versus like cinematic where it's one camera and they're specifically lighting for that one shot. So it feels much more cinematic. And I think that's like Cyberpunk feels more cinematic.
Yes.
So people generally praise the graphics more. It's a different game.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing that game style to this one, but the graphics on Cyberpunk are a little more advanced because they can. It's not, as big as Starfield, I would argue.
It's exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be cool if you walked in and there was more dynamic lighting. It didn't feel so flat.
See, I know what you're talking about, and yes, I agree that overall the game is very flat. But I guess what I mean is that there's parts where the light, it like everything is like the top part of someone's head or face is like completely
it's like on fire,
white.
And then everything else pitch black.
Yeah. So
that's a gaffer's problem. They should fire the gaffer. the best boy.
So that's getting improved, and I'm very happy about that. And then the other thing that shocked me, absolutely shocked me, is somebody noticed that the lighting isn't only just improved in Madame Sauvage's, so that bar in Neon, the lighting is completely different. So we're talking like...
Good. I was not exactly impressed with that bar. Like when I first walked into it, I was expecting, like, there was cool stuff in there.
Yeah.
But the lighting, when you walk into a nightclub in Vegas, I mean, it's all lighting.
Right. Yeah.
And then when they turn on the house lights after everyone leaves at 4 a.m., that's when you see some things.
Yeah. What's cool is that before it had like, it's all green. Now it's all sort of like warm colors, but it's very dark, like in a good way. They darkened it like crazy and made it just more like, different lighting here and there, like some oranges and stuff. But it's so crazy because it's 100% different.
Hey, does anybody smoke in Starfield?
Wow, I don't think so.
Have we ever covered that?
Wait a minute. No, we haven't.
Or vape, or like space pipe, or whatever it is 200 years from now.
So you can find packs of cigarettes, you can find cartridges like for vaping. And now you're blowing my mind because I'm like, have I not seen anyone smoking in the game?
No one smokes. And wouldn't it be cool if you were in Madame Savage's and like someone sitting in the corner just vaping up this big cloud? Because that's like,
yeah, that
and
is.
then lighting effects on the smoke.
Yes.
Do you think it's a programming choice, or do you think it's like a political choice?
Yeah, like a political or morality choice. See, I don't know. That's weird because, like I said, you can find cigarettes in the game. But then again, now that you mention it, I don't think I ever saw anyone smoking in Fallout either.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a video game where I saw smoking. I know they exist.
Metal Gear. Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear, yeah. You got to go back. It seems like it's kind of taboo to do it, which is really weird when you're shooting people in the head. Like, the double standard is obnoxious, and it doesn't reflect real life. Because, like, real life, especially here in Las Vegas, where people come to smoke openly in a casino, even if they're not a normal smoker day to day, or vape or whatever.
Yeah.
They're recreationally vaping.
Well,
and it's everywhere, it seems like.
We were talking about some of these, vices just in our Discord, and respectfully, like I agree with so many of the people in our Discord that were just like, oh, smoking's really gross, or drinking, was really bad in my family, stuff like that. And I'm 100% totally respectful of that type of thing. I'm not a smoker. If it's in a movie, if it's a character, like, that doesn't bother me.
Right.
It's
acting.
It's acting. It's a look. I don't smoke, so that's why I like to burn incense, because it's nice to see that like wisp of smoke and just going up. It's very relaxing.
And your incense is in the form of a Marlboro Light. So I mean, that's just your choice, but
it's tobacco scented.
Cool menthols, huh?
But
yeah,
I agree that it'd be cool because we've seen in the back alleys of Neon in Ebside, there's like steam coming up through the vents, and the light realistically like will shine through that smoke. So hey, let's see some people vaping in the bars. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it. You walk into Madame Savage's and there is Aurora drinks everywhere. And what is Aurora but a mind-bending, altering drug, essentially?
Yeah.
So they're showing drug use in a sense. So come on, show me some people smoking. Why not?
They talk about Aurora. You see people in Ebside that are like definitely high. They're like, oh, the colors, But I don't know if I've ever seen somebody in the act of taking Aurora. But then you as the player, you can. I don't know.
What's the game rated?
Mature?
Is it? It is mature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's funny because people criticize. That's one of the things is they say it feels too non-mature rated.
Yeah.
Dude, you have some people smoking already that makes it feel more mature.
Yeah.
But I don't know. People are terrified.
This game tells kids to smoke cigarettes. Yep.
Yeah. Influencing kids to smoke. I partially understand it. So guys, like if you're like, no, but it will influence kids, I get it. But at the same time, it's like, it is a mature rated game. Like you said, you kill people, you're murdering people like all the time. Like you can be evil if you want, but no smoking. Don't do it. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Please no smoking. What was that movie?
Thank You for Smoking.
Thank You for Smoking. Yeah. That's right. Yep.
You know what I would love?
Smurfs on DVD.
Oh yeah. I got Smurfs on HD Blu-ray. Favorite movie.
The full series.
What I would love is right now when you go into a bar and you buy a drink in Starfield, it just goes into your inventory and you can drink it there. Oh man, if only we had a drink animation, because that's one thing I really like about Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2 is like, or like Grand Theft Auto. When you go and you buy a drink, they put the shot on the counter, and there's a whole animation of you drinking it, and then, the screen starts to get fuzzy.
If you can show me during one gameplay me getting in and out of my spaceship chair 10 times on accident, then the least you could do is throw in a drinking a beer animation when I go to the bar.
Oh, man. When my friends and I played Sea of Thieves, and granted, this is, sure, it's a multiplayer game, so it's a little bit different, but I think this principle still applies. At the end of every game, when we're done with treasure, we would go to the tavern and we would just keep drinking until we got like totally hammered and just like, barfing on each other. It's like, it was just chaos, and it was so much fun.
Wait, did they barf in that game?
Yeah.
Like, did they show a barf animation?
Oh, yeah. No,
nice.
It's gross. It's gross in a good way. We discovered that if you pulled out, like you had a bucket for getting water off the ship, you could actually get drunk, barf into the bucket, and then save that bucket. Later, if you encounter enemy players, you could pull that bucket out, splash it on their face, and their screen would be covered in barf for a limited time, and then you could attack them.
That's amazing.
Talk about emergent gameplay.
Love those details.
I love role-playing in Bethesda games. Hey, Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto, these are single-player games. If I had the option to go into the bar, talk to somebody, and then have a shot, take a drink, like those animations would make such a difference. But whatever, we don't have them, so.
Well, I think I just figured out what we want. We want more flair.
Yeah.
And when you think about Baldur's Gate 3 winning Game of the Year, RPG of the Year, that game has flair coming out of its ears. I mean, there are so many cool things that you can do in that game that are unexpected and like are payoffs for trying crazy things that it's become legendary.
Yeah.
There is flair in Starfield, like we've talked about Repair and Go or Chunks to Go.
Yep.
So there's flair out there. But yeah, I think there's room for more.
The idea of flair actually reminds me of something that we have talked about in the past, the idea of launching your ship and having an animation that takes you into space, right? So we've talked about that. And a lot of players were saying, oh, that would be better than the load screen. And I agree and disagree. I agree because it would make it feel more real, more immersive. I also disagree because after how many times seeing it, do you want to always see it? A new gameplay demonstration came out of this new Star Wars game that's coming soon. In the video, the protagonist, she runs up to the console, she jumps in the seat, the ship takes off, and it does that. It goes up into space, through the clouds, through the atmosphere, and into space, and then you're playing again in space.
Very cool.
Very cool. It was like 30 seconds long. And I was like...
That's a long time.
People were... like there was a bunch of these comments that were like, see, Starfield, this is so hard. And I'm like, y'all are going to be really annoyed with that screen after the 50th time. Maybe after the 20th time.
30 seconds.
Dude. Oh, it's so crazy.
My ultimate wish list for that procedure of like taking off, going into space would be let me fly the ship from A to B.
Oh, yeah.
And if I want to skip the atmosphere, if I want to crash and burn, if I want to fly over, they could let you fly slowly over the surface.
Oh, yes.
To limit it somehow, maybe. Yep. And then it could be some technical thing that they can invent in the game, like, oh, you have to like be going up or you can't pick up speed because of, whatever, some techno babble. Then you could kind of slowly go across the surface and then you could point upward and start to go into the atmosphere, and then you pick up speed. I know I'm asking for a lot, but it'd be fun to play around with those mechanics.
It would, yeah.
Whereas currently it feels more like the space battles and stuff feel like you're in control of the ship. Everywhere else, it feels more like you're on an elevator ride, kind of. Yeah. Like you're getting on and off an elevator.
Yeah, that's what I think is so important about those ship battles. Is you actually feel like, oh, I'm actually flying. And you're right, you don't get that elsewhere. So I started a new character and I replayed one of those early missions where it's the stealth ship mission. And we've talked about how you get that one time where they're like, oh, you can stealth past ships by powering down your, power down all systems except for just enough engine.
That initial space flight tutorial.
Yeah. And
in-game tutorial.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it's like a tutorial for stealth on your ship.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually want to correct something that I said in the past, because people said, why did they show you that and then you never do that again in the game? Now, at the time, in defending Bethesda, I said, oh, well, they're just showing you one way that you can do things and you can choose to do that later. I don't think that's true necessarily. Tell me I'm wrong, but every time you warp into like a ship battle, you're sort of like in the middle of the ship battle. Or if it's far off, it's two people having a battle together. The stealth becomes inconsequential because if you're moving that slowly, that battle's going to be over anyway. Like UC is going to kill the pirates or whatever.
They should have put a different tip in there. They should have put the drift tip in instead.
Yeah.
That's way more useful and something that I use all the time. The stealth, I did successfully use it one time early in the game, and you're right, it was when there were spacers fighting off ecliptic or something like that, right? And they were off away. You're right, when you warp in, you're immediately hailed and bounty hunters or whatever, so there's no chance.
I would love to warp, like I would love to have it where you warp into a system and you're immediately told by your crew, we've got enemies in this system, and they can point them out. You can see them in a distance and give you the option to sneak past them if you want. I just feel like there's not an opportunity to use that, especially if you start a new game. You're not going to have a very powerful ship, so the option of putting down all the systems and sneaking in. Or we've talked about contraband. Why am I wrong? I'm wondering, can you go to like one of the outer planets and then find a way to like sneak past? That to me would be so rad. Like,
you mean in terms of a planet that has the scanning, like
so
Jemison or...
Yeah, let me clarify. So it's like, instead of going to Jemison, and because as soon as you load in, they're like, we're gonna scan you for contraband.
Yeah.
Like, how cool would it be to choose to go to a planet further out and then find a way to sneak in? I don't know. Like, I
using
want more.
That stealth mechanic
maybe using
that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
I like where you're going with this, and that actually made me think of a thing that happened to me on Neon. There's a quest with the Strikers where you have to go hack signage.
Yeah.
The first one that you hack, or in my experience, the first one I hacked, no problem. The second one I hacked, maybe it's just the order you choose them, a scripted event occurs, which a security guard sees you and then shakes you down for money, right?
I'm dying already, because I think I know where this is going.
Well, that is an unexpected. That is changing. That's moving the goalpost. That's changing the rules of the game, because the rule of the game is if you can stealth and get away with it, you should be able to. But in that occurrence, there's no possible way to stealth. It just happens.
Not.
It's scripted.
I just did this.
And what's weird about it is, like, if you don't know this going into that mission, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have some fun with this. I quick save. I do it again. The same thing happens. What was weird was it's a different security guard, but it's the same scripted sequence.
Yeah.
Same voice, not the same voice, a different voice, which I thought was interesting.
That
but
is
anyway,
interesting, yeah.
So I'm running around Neon, and I can see him chasing me. Like, all the other security guards are just do. They don't care whatsoever, and he's running after me. And I'm like, I'm gonna dish this guy. So I went around. I went to the ebb side. I find some dark alleyway where there's no other NPCs, and he tries to shake me down, and I murder him. And of course, Sarah leaves me. But I was like, then I find out later from someone in our Discord that it's a scripted sequence, and I'm like, oh, it makes so much more sense that you're finding out about how the corruption is happening in the. But point is, you can't establish rules of the universe which are security see you when you do things versus a scripted event involving security.
I know.
I don't know. It was unexpected.
I struggle with this because there's some times where I'm like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing. They're setting up something. Or like you said, it's to show you how corrupt they are. So it's like I see that, but at the same time, I'm dying because I literally did that mission again this weekend. And because I've done this mission a lot because that's how you get a certain jacket. And I always have to do it. But I didn't run around as much as you, but it was so funny. I was like the kid that's gonna ring the doorbell and run away. Go up, I'm like, here we go. And I'm looking around. There's no guard. There's no guard anywhere. And I flip the switch and I bolt the other direction and I hide behind the wall. Same thing. I see him coming like the Terminator, like
yeah.
and then he comes up and it's like, come on, like. I don't know. It reminds me of like there's an encounter with a ship that is in the game. So it's a scripted event. You go in, there's this whole thing, and then I undock from the ship, and for reasons that are my own, I wanted to blow this ship to pieces, and I'm like, bam, 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 and it's doing no damage, and they're talking and then they warp away, no problem. And that bothered me because I'm like, let me blow them out of the sky. Well, then later, then that ship became a scripted event. It's like part 2, and it shows up, and then I was able to fight that. Well, they were fighting me anyway, and then I blew them up.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's like the classic Fallout thing where there are certain NPCs that are protected.
Yeah.
I think it was Fallout New Vegas where you can literally kill everybody and then that just ends that storyline.
Yeah.
Same thing with Baldur's Gate. Like you can kill storylines left and right in that game, which is kind of satisfying.
They had some of that in Skyrim too, where there were some unkillables, I think, but man, I feel like almost everyone, you could kill the shopkeeper and then that shop is closed. Sometimes there would be someone that replaces them, and if they die, then the shop is just closed. And it's just like, you better start a new game if you want to go to that shop.
It's like a new family member. It's like the uncle.
Yeah.
And then it's like the cousin. Eventually you kill the entire family.
Yeah. Starfield definitely has more unkillable NPCs than I've ever seen in a Bethesda game, which for a lot of people is a big problem. For me, it's a tiny problem because one character in particular I just hate. And I hate that I was not, like, even after this story was done, I was not able to kill this character. But then I think, okay, it's possible that they're setting up a DLC story. And so, like, I understand that for reasons of storytelling, some of these characters need to be unkillable.
I think they could still do it, though, and then make you regret it later. Like,
oh, yeah.
You go to do the DLC, and it's like, sorry, you got to actually re-roll, or,
You are
can't experience this.
You're 100% right.
Like, we're big boys, right?
You're 100% right. They should let you do it and make you regret it. Yep. I agree.
Hey, congrats on level 100, by the way.
Thank you. Yes. I finally hit level 100. Gosh, it was so exciting. Everyone now knows that my next new character was going to be a Ronin character. So Ronin being that you start out with a melee build, and I have to give the game credit. So I thought for sure that I was going to have to use a gun for a long time, but I started out in the opening. Barrett arrives. Pirates come to the mine, and they're like, pick up that gun. I picked up a gun, and right away, a pirate came running out that had an axe, a rescue axe.
Ooh. Yeah.
I shot him, took that axe, and I have not used a firearm since.
Tell me your spec.
So currently the skills that I spec'd are
Dueling.
Yeah, definitely. So the first one that I went into was definitely dueling to get that going. Now,
Did you blow some on the boost pack right away? Because it's frustrating without upgrading that, right?
yeah, actually, I tried to put off the boost pack as long as I could, just because I wanted to just get dueling right away. And after a while, I was like, I've got to have at least one. I have to have at least one skill point in boost pack.
It's pretty puny, right?
Yeah, I would like more as well, like when you get to the max level. But I gotta say, like now that I'm at level 1 on boosting, I'm like, oh, this is really rough.
Yeah.
Because what I've realized is, while yes, you probably it'd be nicer to stay in the air longer. What I'm realizing is that my biggest issue is how long it takes for them to recharge. So on level 4 boosting, once you might not be in the air that long, but once you hit the ground, they recharge pretty fast.
Definitely.
And now they don't. Yeah, so that's rough. But yeah, so I got 1 point there, and then I'm already up to 4 points in dueling, which is just so important. So
Do you have a power that you've unlocked?
I have unlocked 0 powers.
Okay.
I'm finding I'm not anti-powers, but I'm finding that I'm really enjoying the groundedness of the game and the sci-fi, story and experience without getting the powers yet. So I'm putting points into skills for having lots of health. And then also, so pain tolerance lowers the amount of physical damage that you receive. And then in addition to that, I didn't think I was going to be doing a lot of stealth, but stealth ends up being, you automatically get one of those points as a Ronin. So I am actually finding it to be somewhat helpful, because especially like if you can get in close to people without them shooting you, that is a help. But then the other big one is martial arts. Martial arts is super cool because you actually have a chance of disarming your opponent. So it's like a 15, I want to say it's like a 10 to 15% chance of disarming their opponent with the power attack. I want to point out something very interesting about Starfield and how they handle melee. There is a huge difference between playing in first person and third person. So, right now I'm using...
Wait, please tell me that first person's better, because that's pretty much exclusively what I've been doing.
Okay, so the difference between first person and third person, when you use the wakizashi, which is basically a katana, in first person, it does a forward like jab, but you stand in place, because that's better for first person gameplay, I suppose. However, when you play third person and you do that same attack, the power attack will actually lunge you forward like 5 feet. So the gameplay totally changes. Like the way that you are gonna angle these shots or plan in combat is totally different, because when you're playing first person, it's more like a standing attack and like a jab. But
you know what I've noticed is fighting large beasts with melee weapons is harder in first person, because you can't judge distance, and usually the larger beast has a pretty big attack box that can hit you from pretty far away. So you're trying to flank it or hit it from behind.
Yep.
Yeah, it could be more helpful to do it in third person.
Find that with melee, I kind of have to switch between first person and third depending on the situation. Some of our Discord members were talking about toilet loot. If you walk up to a toilet and you hit it or shoot it, the lid pops up and sometimes there's something in there. So, hey, if there's loot that you might not be getting, people, so check the toilets. But I got to tell you, toilet loot actually made me learn something else about melee. Like I was trying to stay in third person because of the whole style of like the sword and everything. I can't aim down at the toilet to hit it. So like the sword attacks are sort of like, they're animated to be specifically for fighting people or enemies, right? And so they're all sort of like across, you can't aim down. But then I switched to first person, and you can aim down and hit things. Wherever you aim, you're going to hit them. So there is actually just a gigantic difference.
Yeah, I mean, aiming down when, working with the toilet is definitely a key skill.
It's a very important skill. Yes. Oh, man. But it almost feels like two very different games to be trying to do melee in third person and first person.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to try third person when fighting beasts. I think that's going to be a lot easier. And I'm over here, boxing.
Yeah.
On beasts, I do switch to like shotguns and some exterminator perked stuff, just because sometimes they're just too difficult to sit there and box them, especially when there's multiple hunters hitting you pretty hard. So
yeah, I saw one of our listeners actually commented and let me know that probably doing melee, I would want to also specialize in chems, because basically there's certain drugs that you can make, high level drugs that sort of enhance your abilities to fight and all that stuff. But
yeah, the damage resistant ones are absolutely necessary, because otherwise you go through a ton of med packs.
I use the ones that I find, and I'll probably do some skill up on chems and start, become the Walter White and start cooking. It was a huge challenge, just like you had, to start out doing a melee build. Even worse for you because you were just punching. Once I got to level 4 of dueling, I actually get back health with every person I kill.
Yeah. I should have spec'd that first. Because that's a key perk.
I'll go into a battle. The skills that I have, I will come out of it with very little health lost at the end, which is crazy because when I first started, I was like chugging med packs like crazy. It's very satisfying to run around and just stab people and just take people out. I love that if you do a lunge attack or any kind of sword attack, and if it kills them, it also is sending them flying in whatever direction your sword hit them. So it's very satisfying.
Do you find running with a companion is making it difficult to use the melee build? I do.
Not necessarily. Having a companion is good because they're always using guns. And so they hang back and they'll actually draw some fire. I actually find that a lot of enemies are shooting at them while I flank and take them out with a sword. Not always, but...
Yeah, but you know how each perk requires you to like kill 100 enemies by melee before you can get to the next one?
Oh.
For like dueling.
Right.
For example, right? When your companion's over there like shooting up all the available baddies...
I think their damage is low enough.
It takes longer... It doesn't count, right?
Right. No, it wouldn't count towards my kill, but I think the damage they do is low enough that they're not taking too many kills away from me, I don't think. And sometimes if I see they're firing at an enemy, dropping their health a little bit, I'll try to get in there and get the last hit so it does count towards mine.
Right. You'll just take some bullets in the back so that you can get the kill.
Yeah.
You'll step right in the line of fire.
Because I can now survive a lot of these battles, I think I'm going to be putting skills into some of the more, like the acrobatic stuff. To me, like being able to just run super fast around a battlefield and just take people out with a katana.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. I actually was worried that I was not going to like it. That is a concern in a game that's mostly about guns. And they do need to, they need to boost the melee a little bit in an update. But
yeah, I'm still looking forward to getting the slide, because the slide seems like it might be key from, closing distances.
The slide's fun. I had that on my last character.
Oh, you had it?
Yeah. It's actually really cool.
With all the melee action, you're in there fighting. Do you need more music in your game now?
One of the reasons I think I wasn't appreciating the music in the game as much as I should is In Skyrim, the music was defaulted to be pretty loud. Like it was pretty almost all-encompassing during some parts of the song. Like, and it worked. Like it was very pleasant, especially if you're just out in the wilderness. So I've noticed that the music in Starfield effortlessly melds into the game itself and the atmosphere.
You're not the only one to notice that, because it didn't get a lot of music shout outs,
Right.
you know, from critics and awards and all that other stuff.
Yeah, it really hasn't gotten the recognition that it probably deserves. I was actually dragging bodies so that I could set up like a photo op for, you know, I just wanted to take a screenshot.
Okay, you psycho.
Let's do it. And because I was doing this...
What was that, Road to Perdition? You're like Jude Law in Road to Perdition.
I was going to say, have you ever seen Nightcrawler? With Jake Gyllenhaal?
Was that with, yes, that's disturbing.
That's one of my favorite movies now. I love that movie so much. And yeah, there's that part where he's trying to get a good shot, and so of a car accident, and he like drags a person that was in the car accident. Anyway, yes, psychotic. Because I was doing this quiet activity, I started to notice the music around the Ebside Neon area. I noticed it more than I usually do. And I kind of was hit with this sort of like, man, I really love this music, but I've always just sort of heard it way in the background. So I went and I checked the settings, and I noticed that the default settings, everything is all the way up to 100 except music is like down, I don't know, around 70, whatever. And then dialogue is down. And I thought, well, of course, I could imagine dialogue being down if the music is down. So I just turned everything up. I feel like I'm enjoying the game more. I feel like I'm enjoying the music more. I'm actually hearing it. So
yeah, I'm going to do that too. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. It's a very recent change that I just did. So I still have yet to like see how it is as I explore other places. But so far, so good. Like the music is really good, and I just think it's too low.
Somebody turn off that bazooki. Remember the cheese shop?
No.
Monty Python cheese shop?
Oh.
What?
No.
Where it's got that bazooki playing in the background, and he's like, Hillshire, Imsleydale, yes? No. Do you have any Imsleydale cheese? You don't know the cheese shop skit?
I'm feeling very disappointed.
It's the single most popular Monty Python skit in the world.
I thought the Dead Parrot was the most popular.
It's probably top 5.
Oh,
it's got to be top 5.
I'm going to watch it.
All right, you need to stop what you're doing and go watch the cheese shop.
Turn off the
bloody bazooki.
The bazooki.
Bazooki. No one knows what a bazooki is, but that's what it was. You know who plays a amazing bazooki?
Who plays an amazing bazooki?
Unconscionable from our Discord.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they're quite the talented bazooki player. But you know what they did? They went and visited every single chunks in the galaxy.
Yes.
They documented all 6 chunks restaurants in the settled systems.
Yeah.
That we're aware of, at least. Last time I saw them post, they were on a quest to find the Chunks to Go ship. I think they just had to check that one off.
Oh, yeah.
If you go into
that one's hard to find.
Yeah, it is. If you go into our Discord and go into the Starfield Adventure Club channel, you can read all of Unconscionable's visits to the Chunks restaurants.
Yeah, this was a very entertaining, world tour, universe tour of Chunks restaurants. So I very much appreciated this.
Did he give him a rating? 4 out of 5 for the Paradiso Chunks? He should have. If he didn't.
If he didn't, he should. He's got to go back.
Oh, no, it wouldn't be stars. It'd be 4 chunks out of 5 chunks.
Yeah. Honestly, if you haven't checked out the Discord yet, we've got a link in the show notes. One thing that I love about the Discord is people are discovering things in Starfield that I still haven't seen in the game, and they'll post it there. It's very cool to see. I'm looking at our Discord right now, and one of our Discord members, Scotty, has found a frozen lake. Like, I have never found a frozen lake in the game, and they found one. So it's very, very cool to see.
That is cool.
Also want to do one other shout out from our Discord. We have a section called Drive. Every week we have a challenge where you're building a ship. So it's a shipbuilding challenge. And this week we are doing Crimson Fleet ships.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so people have already made some really cool stuff. There's a user in our group named Ben who made a ship that actually has the Crimson Fleet skull design from all their graffiti.
Awesome.
It's basically like a piece on top of their ship, and it's very cool. It's like a black ship with a red skull. Incredibly creative and really fun to see. So this is what the Discord is all about, is it's enhancing the game for all of us. And that's not just us saying that. So many people in the Discord have said that having this community has breathed so much more life into the game.
Absolutely. And someone posted the exact color palette for Crimson. I don't know how they did that, whether it was trial and error or maybe they found it online, but they gave us the the exact color to match the Crimson ship. I mean, you don't have to use that, but it's nice to be able to quickly punch it in there if you are trying to do the challenge for Drive.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah, I just love that sense of community and everyone helping each other out. All right, well, last week we actually launched our Patreon. So for the first time, we got it up and running, and we just want to say thank you so much to everyone that has responded and helping out. And hey, you also are getting access to a bunch of really cool stuff, like bonus episode. We're going to do a live stream and early access, ad-free, all that good stuff.
You can finally get that unsightly facial hair removed as well, right?
Yeah, that's what we want to do.
What do you call a blind rabbit sitting on your face?
A blind rabbit sitting on your face? I don't know. What do you call that?
Unsightly facial hair. I can cut that, but you never know.
Duane's got his book of jokes from the 1920s.
That's right. That's why no one has heard them before, because they're so outdated that
that's true.
They're once again funny, or maybe not.
That's true. If they're outdated enough, they're brand new and fresh again.
Yeah.
That's true.
Michael, I was overwhelmed by the response to our Patreon. I want to thank everybody, and actually, I want to throw out a few names if you're cool with that.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, let's shout them out.
Yeah, we got Richard, we got Hicks, Illinist, Todd, Rampage, American X, Chance Shenanigan, Kevin, Lucas, and Kristen, all supporters. Absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much to those. Oh, there's more here.
Yes, in addition to them, we also have Slappy92, we've got Griffin, Ben, we've got Olivier, and of course, special shout out to the very first subscriber of the Patreon, which was Worst Action Hero.
That name is not the best name for him. I think he's the greatest action hero. I don't think that name is true.
Yeah, he's not the worst. Yeah.
It is a clever name, and we want to thank Worst Action Hero. Thank you so much for joining our Patreon. We appreciate it.
Yeah. And you can get early access, you can get special bonus episodes and such. You can check out the link, see what's there. You can actually join for as low as $1 a month. So check it out.
And we're actually going to do our first live show for our patrons, right?
Yep. Coming up pretty soon. We're going to get that on the schedule. You'll be able to see it in the Discord, or you'll see it scheduled on Patreon itself.
It'll be 2 a.m. Hawaii time, whatever that is. So
yeah, you're going to want to stay up for this.
Yeah. And thanks to everyone that listens on Spotify, Apple, and thank you to those watching on YouTube. Gosh, we love the comments on there.
Yeah.
There's always interesting things to read on there. So please leave a comment. Let us know, are you doing a melee build? Whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, if you have a melee build, I'd love to hear your tips.
And all links are provided in the show notes below.
Also, if you like the show, consider dropping a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. That would really help us out.
And thanks for traveling the Starfield with us. Make sure you subscribe, because we will be back for more next week.
We'll see you then.